Good morning, students. Today we're going to look at the idea of synthesis versus summary when we are writing research papers. To give an idea of the differences, I'm going to go over briefly what is a summary and what is a synthesis. So a summary, in part, looks at three very distinct pieces, but the most important part is that a summary is only looking at what one researcher thought. So it informs the reader what one researcher thought. It informs the reader of what one researcher did, and then it informs the reader of what one researcher discovered. So we're taking one article and giving the information on one article. When we're looking at synthesis, we're now looking at multiple researchers. It starts with a really broad topic, and then it narrows it down into the smaller pieces of the topic, and it's examining the work of multiple researchers. So what we do with a synthesis is we start with our topic. You'll see that in the main section. It's a synthesis topic. Then we look at what one set of researchers thought, a second set of researchers, and then a third set of researchers. This is just an example. It could be just 2 sets of researchers. It could be 5 sets of researchers. It just really depends on your topic and how much background you have. For the purposes of your service learning plan, you're probably only looking at 2 or maybe 3 sets of researchers, but it's always going to be more than 1 set. And when we're writing our synthesis, we always start with one piece, which leads to another, which results in the final. So you're starting with big, smaller, smaller, and it results in the final topic. And when you're writing, you may have different topics. Now, for the purposes of this paper, you're probably only going to have 1 or maybe 2 synthesized topics. But in synthesized topic 1, we can have what researchers A, B, and C think. The topic 2 just has what B and C think. And then topic 3 has what A and C think. Again, we're looking at what different people are doing here. So let me give you an example of something synthesized when it comes to the topic of co-teaching. So you'll see here that this is one example. Still other research indicates that in spite of different instructional roles, co-teachers complement and learn from each other. Now, this isn't just said by one person, but it's said by multiple people. So it starts with the big, broad topic of co-teachers and how they can learn from each other. Then let's get more specific. For example, Deaker found a mixture of co-teachers' roles, with some teams capitalizing on special educators' expertise by both teachers actively leading lessons. However, Deaker noted special educators on other teams, particularly with limited co-planning time, were not familiar with what the daily lesson content would be. Special educators seemed unsure of how to ensure students with disabilities receive specialized instruction, as noted on their IEPs. Now, this is just one big thought by one researcher. So she started with the co-teachers' roles and then went into, in one case, the special educators lead lessons, but in another case, when special educators weren't sure of what was going on, then they weren't able to participate. The author continues, similarly, King, Sears, and Bauman-Crum expressed concern that specialized instruction, as stipulated on IEPs, may not be occurring during co-teaching, and that accommodations and modifications prevail during co-taught lessons. So this is your second set of researchers relating to what the first set of researchers said. And then finally, Scruggs also noted that evidence-based techniques recommended for students with disabilities, such as strategy instruction and self-monitoring, were not evident in co-taught settings. So when we look at this, we noticed that the author started really big, that that in spite of different instructional roles, co-teachers complement and learn from each other. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So we notice that we have the big topic of co-teaching and it gets smaller pieces. You will notice here that this is not what one person thinks. It's what a lot of people think. So that's why in a synthesis we get these different pieces. So some things to notice when you are writing your synthesis.